Welcome to the Hide and Seek Trial Debrief Podcast. I'm Autumn.
And I'm Melissa.
With Outside the Box Dog Training.
After each trial, we've always enjoyed sharing our videos with each other while talking through our experiences. And we were inspired to share those insights with you. To all our fellow Nosework geeks out there, we hope you find these conversations thought-provoking, inspiring, validating, or just plain entertaining.
In this episode, we're going to continue our discussion of the Elite Premier Trial in Faribault, Minnesota. If you haven't checked out the first episode, go back to our channel and give it a watch. All right, now that our volunteers are fed, we're going to dive into the afternoon searches. All right, so the third search was the beer garden search. This one we had 3.5 minutes on or off leash, and there was a known number of 3 hides. How do you guys feel about known number hide searches?
I kind of hate them. To be perfectly honest, I would rather have an unknown number because then anything that I find is great. I'm in the game. I think known number searches go one of two ways. Either they want you out really fast and it's unicorns and rainbows, or you're going to find N-1.
Right.
And then that's your search. And you'll find the N-1 like in 1 minute thinking you're going to I'm going to place in this search. And then you stall out for how many more minutes you have.
I know. No numbers can be a curse sometimes.
So how about you, Kathy? What do you think?
I think that what I really don't like are range. I would like everything to be an unknown number. I don't like ranges of hides.
Really?
It's like what I feel like just do unknown. I mean, it's still unknown. It's
yeah.
And then I have to keep track, and I always keep.
That is hard to keep all that in your head. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
It's because I'm old, but yeah, the known hides. If it's like a speed search, that can be a fun challenge.
Yeah.
If that's the intent. Of course, you don't know necessarily. This search I actually enjoyed, but yeah, I would say I don't know. I don't think I hate them, but as much as you do anyway.
I proudly proclaimed, I hate known number searches after I called finish. But at that point, I was hungry for more because I was only at I was only at 7 hides, and knowing that there were 3 hides, I wanted all 3 of them.
Oh, sure.
I wanted unicorns and rainbows.
Yeah.
You were a hide ahead at this point. You were at 8, and you were at 7.
7, yep. Yeah, well, to be honest, if it was a known number, I would have loved for her to say 5.
Yeah.
Not the case here.
Yeah, right. Well, 5, that's like, for me, because I usually lose track around 3. So I'd be like, we either found 4 or 5. And do I say finish? Because I actually have done that in a search.
Yeah.
Where I didn't say finish, and we had found all the hides, and we went to the end, and right after somebody said, what were you doing? Why didn't you call finish?
Yeah, you're right. That could be hard.
So just do all unknown.
All right,
all
sounds
unknown.
good. Well, let's watch me research.
Hold on.
Yeah.
I gotta get my timer. So I really like using my Fitbit timer because it vibrates, and it doesn't have the audible beeps.
Oh, I hate the audible beeps.
Yeah.
I have a love-hate relationship with the audible, but I also like hearing it because I'm not sure that I'm going to pay attention to that buzz. I mean, the number of times that I miss my Fitbit telling me to move every hour is pretty impressive. So I think it's really interesting. He went from the first room to the second room
Pretty quickly,
just like
yeah.
that. He didn't spend much time evaluating in there.
And this is a really interesting search space because you have like the second room that has a lot of open air. So it's almost like a pseudo interior. Yeah, so he finds that one pretty easily. And then that other room had a different temperature, and it was closed off on 3 sides. So I think that it was just a very unique search space.
Yeah, Christina mentioned, I think it's like 15 degrees different.
Yeah, even the
in
temperature
the 2
difference.
rooms.
Yep.
We'll have to pay attention in your search with Wyatt because Wyatt keeps track of the ambient temperature. And I remember seeing that there was a difference. I don't think it was 15 degrees though. So
So this is all we find. We just find the 2 hides in the 3.5 minutes. And I think, so he found both hides in like a minute. And I think it's interesting because how long do you let your dog search without finding anything else before calling finish? Mm-hmm. I think in this search it was hard because there were only 3.5 minutes. And so he only worked for another 2.5 minutes, and that's fine.
And calling finish when you know there's another hide.
Yes.
I mean, of course, we all can say, Well, of course you should do it, but in reality,
Yeah.
that's really hard to do when you know there's still a hide.
Yeah. Well, and he hadn't really covered most of the space, so I was happy to let him, cover and figure out where this last hide is. But yes, if it was an unknown number, it's hard to know if I would have called finish earlier just because it is a shorter time limit. I mean, if this was a 5-minute search, I wouldn't want him to go another 3 or 4 minutes without finding anything. But because the time limit was so small, I wasn't worried about letting him keep working.
Yeah, and with it being a known number, and then you found 2 very quickly and you don't find a third, you sort of start to assume that it's a hard hide, which means they need the time to work it.
Right.
So if you're in it to win it, you sort of have to stay in it. And if you have a dog who is really optimistic and is hardworking, they'll keep working. And that was funny. That
he gave me a little look.
Yep.
And the only thing he gives me is here, where he kind of puts his head up, and I'm like, oh, is it on that outlet or is it in the corner? And then he checks it and walks off.
I noticed dogs seem to like checking the outlets in this search.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's the only idea they have. They're like, well, I'm out of ideas.
And where the actual hide was, I don't think I saw really anything from Meru.
No, so he doesn't get back there.
Yeah. Should we show where the hide is? Or?
Yeah, so I think he might have... Yes, he went by there early on. So we start and he's walking by this bar. The heater hide, it's actually above him.
It's pretty high. It's very high.
Yeah. It's almost suspended, But he just walks right under there. But again, he has this low head carriage. So I do think
that's a good point.
Yeah, I do think that plays into it. But we'll see later on what Zest and Kai do. Should we go to Zest video next?
Sure.
Okay.
At least we'll get a view of where the heater was, because we all looked at the debrief sheet and said, heater?
Yeah.
Where is that?
But yeah,
Exactly.
Meru pretty much gave nothing, and that's okay.
So it looks like
It's a little hard to tell the angle here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll become clear eventually.
But it says the ambient temperature is 58 in here.
So when he came in, when I was running it, I saw, he's working something out, but I guess it could have been, again, the floor.
Yes.
That he was a little worried, but I saw him. No, he wants to say hi to Jeff. Quick,
Okay, so that's why he went into that room.
But then he comes right back in.
Yeah.
So unlike Meru, he kind of sticks in this room for quite a while, and he's working the chairs. I think the odor from that, I don't know where the odor was coming from, but there was clearly odor pooling in the chairs from watching all the dogs.
Yeah. Kai definitely got trapped in the
jungle. We'll see him back out. That was funny. Now, I don't remember doing this at all. Oh, that's right. He goes behind. I don't remember doing this, but at some point I very purposely walked over there.
Yeah.
I knew where the hide was, but I swear I didn't. So the hide, you can see it now. It's on that heater. And Zest, he did, I don't know if it's quite yet.
Yeah, that little turn.
He turns and then he works the bench. Mm-hmm. And you can kind of hear him start to sniff.
Yeah.
See, I think he's aware that there's odor nearby.
Yeah.
He's aware of source, but he's...
Yeah.
And of all of the dogs, he's the one who probably came the closest, and that was it right there.
But then he leaves, and it's he's well,
Right.
that's, I don't
Jump,
know.
well, done.
That's what I found.
And you have to trust your dog, right?
Yeah, and so then he finally comes in here, and he unlike the other two, he comes in later, gets these other two, which I think were pretty easy for all the dogs.
And the temperature thing said 64, so you were looking at 6 degrees difference between the two buildings.
And it's always interesting when there's a coned off area. And of course, the dogs don't know, and they could be picking up odor back there.
Yep.
But still, as a handler, you're like, you don't need to go over there.
Yeah.
I actually thought, well, I guess other dogs can follow your wet footprints to the hide. Because I went right through that water and straight to that hide, but I'm sure it dried by then. But it was nice to see that Zest had also gone through the water. I think Sweet Mayberry was like, oh, I can't go in those cones.
And then after that, we never did go back into that room.
No.
Yeah.
I know, so when he will just talk as he finishes up here, but as I left this, talking about no number, I actually felt good because I thought, well, that was kind of cool. He found 2 hides, and then there was another one that I think I know kind of where it was, but it was just challenging enough that, if it had just been like bam, 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 that's not so satisfying.
Yeah.
It would have been great if he found that high hide, but it was like, okay, that was just challenging enough but not so challenging that it was just completely frustrating.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I actually enjoyed the search.
All right, yep, and then you were like, bye. Nicely done.
I actually think that's a really hard thing for anyone hide setting to do, to create difficulty for the teams that have those skills, but yet, you don't want to make it so difficult that a lot of people aren't keeping their points. Like, I think hide setting is so tough to give a good separation of teams, but also make it fair so that, again, all teams can have some success, but you don't have a dog that is just like, getting 100% all the time.
Right. Well, you don't want 3100s. How's
yes,
that? Right?
Exactly.
Like,
right.
But if you found those 2 easier hides, you got 66%, and that's above 60. So.
That's right. That's true. All right, let's take a look.
And nobody found that hide. So
I know that was
nobody
really
in the trial.
interesting.
And there were a lot of really strong dogs.
I feel
in
like
this
that's
trial.
okay, though. I mean, it was still very interesting.
Yep.
Right.
There's the skitter again.
So once again, I am on leash, okay?
Yes.
I am always on leash, so that was fine. And I like that it was like a weird membrane. I was like, oh, okay, you want to stay in this room, so maybe there's something to find. And yep, Kai in his chair jungle. I thought he was going to take me through those chairs like he did in Beef Barn, but he didn't.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if he shows
does.
any
Yep,
kind of
he
awareness.
does.
I mean, there's some pausing there, some slowdown.
I think he comes back, though.
Yeah, and he had such a strong drive there. I just had to drop the leash because I was like, so it was interesting. Like, you were sure there was something to find in here. He was so excited, but then it just, nothing really comes of it.
I think running a dog that works so hard and intensely.
And this is my favorite part where he wedges himself in and then he has to back that truck up. Beep, 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 beep. And then he was like, all right, I'm done. I'm going to go find these other 2 hides.
I know, he's not fazed by anything.
No, he's just a funny guy. But look at his tail. He's so happy.
Yeah, he's like, oh, finally.
Oh.
I love that, Zest slipped once and was terrified, and Kai slips every other step.
Every other step. So here he is. He's in the water, and I'm like, yeah, right to that hide. Good job, buddy.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. I didn't notice the
Dog
footprints.
4 will very much enjoy that, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the last hide we found.
Yeah, and he found those pretty quickly, too.
But he's going to have
he
one
goes-
change here, this was the only other place that I was like, maybe. But again, I trust my dog, like you said with Mayru, and it's like he checked some stuff out, and then he left. I was hoping for a hose. Wouldn't that hose be nice?
Yep.
But nope.
I think what's so hard about this chain link fence here is that if there were a hide there, it could easily be blowing out of the search area.
Yes.
So, that was what was going through my head. Like, okay, there could be something here, but is the odor available? Well, it turns out it was less available in the other room, but I always think about that with that kind of situation where you've got a lot of opportunity for air movement. It could make it very difficult for a dog to source.
And yeah, so just like you were saying, Kathy, I'm not afraid to let
Another leash moment.
slightly less graceful though, but I'm not afraid to let him work in out of bounds areas too, because it's like I don't know where the odor is going to be. So it's like if he wants to work it, for a certain amount of time, I'm willing to just let him do it. But yeah, we definitely got stuck in chair jungle. So there's one of those tight spots. Here we go. I was hoping it was going to be on this red chair then, because this was the only other real place of like slight interest that I got.
Now, is it here that I think we see some interest?
Yeah, so he'll go behind the bar too.
Okay.
I almost wish that it wasn't out of play, because I wonder whether there was odor information back there. And I did the naughty, right? And I called him back just like you did.
Well, yeah.
It's
not naughty.
But I should have given him more time in there.
Yeah.
Like, he wanted to go in there for a reason, and
if you were training, you would. You only have 3.5 minutes.
and I only have 3.5 minutes, and I'm really quite hungry for that third hide. But this is definitely one of those a few minutes later kind of things where at some point I'll finally call finish. But I finish. Right?
All right. Well, final thoughts on the beer garden search.
Fun.
Fun.
My least favorite thing. Because I proudly said, I hate no numbered searches right after I called finish. I just cut that from the video to not show it. Yeah.
I think I'm just glad that it was a short time limit. Yeah. So again, that third hide was obviously hard to source, but I'm glad that it wasn't like a 5-minute search, so that our dogs weren't, because if it was a known number and 5 minutes, would we have made our dogs work that much longer? Not that it's that detrimental if you're doing it once in a while, but I'm just glad that, 3.5 minutes, you didn't find this one, no harm done,
And this was an interesting search too, because it was kind of a gamble. Like, there were people who got out finding 2 hides and just got out of Dodge. Yeah. And it's like, in this case, nobody found that third hide. So that was, if you wanted to place, that was how you did it. But little did you know, right? But it could have been the kind of thing where those who stayed in it did work out the problem, and then all it takes is 3 people finding that third hide for that strategy to not work.
Right.
And so again, if you have a dog who is willing to work for a prolonged amount of time in that oasis where they're not going to find that last hide, that's fine. So, Kai's one of those dogs. He didn't care.
No.
Well, and there was enough odor floating around that it kept them
them in. Yeah, for sure. Yep. All right. Shall we move on to our last search?
Yes.
All right. So our last search of the day was a container search, and it was inside. Fun. I know, fun.
As Autumn will be heard to say.
There were. Does anyone know how many containers there were?
No.
At least
800.
800.
Somewhere between 20 and 100 was how the briefing went.
All right, maybe 40-ish. Anyway, the parameters
40.
were, we had 3.5 minutes for this one too, and then an unknown number of hides.
That's right.
And on or off leash,
which is unusual.
Yeah. So we get to see a walkthrough video, so we kind of know that the containers are scattered in the room. How do you guys prepare for a container search, especially when you know that it could potentially be off leash? Do you think about, if I had that choice, would you choose off leash? I'll go to you, Kathy, first.
Yeah, it could be a very long answer. I'll try not to, but I've always, I used to do all my searches on leash. Then I did everything except containers off leash. Actually haven't done a lot of container searches in the last few years, but I found that he moves very fast over them. I actually would kind of have a stranglehold on him, which is kind of backwards from an off-leash search, because I've found that he would skim over them. And ideally, I want to just do one pass in a pattern search, because the last thing you want to do is send your dog back over where he's already found everything.
Yeah.
And that just sounds frustrating to me, so I'd rather set it up so that he can succeed in doing one pass. But that was not happening if I gave him free rein. Thus the stranglehold, where he could go wherever he wanted.
Yeah.
I was just keeping it taut.
Yeah.
So this search, because I knew it was another somewhat slippery floor. It was the last search of the day. Plus, I love doing off-leash searches. I didn't know how it would go. I really didn't. But I'm just like, I just got to try this.
Yeah.
So,
I love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking about going on leash for similar reasons where, you want to like try and do one pass if possible. And then also I think with a scattered container pattern, it's hard to keep track of where you've been.
That was big.
So what I was actually thinking about doing is, can we come in and do like a spiral? So like kind of hit the outer and then kind of go in, because it's not like the containers are in nice fancy rows where you can there's some obvious patterns to choose, but I felt that if I kind of spiraled, maybe I would hit the vicinity of everyone, and then doing it on leash would help kind of control that. But
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
I think we all spiraled.
yeah, it'll be
In a
interesting.
different sense.
In a different sense. Okay, well, what about you? What were you thinking?
Oh God! Well, first of all, the night before I was a whiny bee.
Well, tell us about your history.
History. So, Kai's a really good container dog. He does not fall for distractors. Stay tuned, foreshadowing. He's been a really consistent dog, but he thinks he ends at his shoulder blades and he walks on top of containers. And so he sort of kicks all of them, which drives me insane. And so there was absolutely no way that I was going to run that off leash. But in the previous Elite P, we had a really tight container search with multiple rows. It was probably like 5 rows in a tiny space, and the floor was polished, and he actually fell in his search. And so I kind of had PTSD where I was like, I hated that experience. And I mean, in that first Elite P, we found them all, but I literally called finish at the 3rd height and said, I need to get out of here.
Yeah. Well,
Foreshadowing.
see, we touched on the mixed emotions that we have during searches, and it's like you have your competitor brain, but you also have, this is my canine partner, you know, and when they get scared or do something unexpected, I mean, that really influences your reaction and how you feel about things, and in your case, like, he could have hurt himself.
He could have hurt himself. I mean, he's getting older, and he's still reckless. And so, like, I didn't want him to hit the end of his line or slide and fall. I mean, it could have happened whether it was on or off leash.
Right.
And so I honestly, up until the trial, talked about like, well, do I give it a go? And if he's slipping and sliding, just call finish, right? Do the safe thing for him. Well, now you're coming into your 4th search and you have 9 hides and you need to score a 60.
I know.
So I kind of wanted to find 4.
And for those who don't know, there's usually between, I don't know, let's just say 16 and 20 hides in Elite P. So like if you're coming in with 9 hides,
you need to
and this is the last
3,
search,
so
you're hungry. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you could have chosen to just either not do that search or just come in and find a couple and be done. But I think, like, because of the information you have at the time, it's easy to stay in. And thankfully, he didn't. He looked like he had better footing.
Yeah, he did fine. It was the same flooring that he'd been on all day, so it's a little skitter, but he
But I understand your hesitation, because it's like you want to be able to rise to the challenge, and he's a solid container dog usually, so it would be great to be able to do the search, but you're also concerned about him.
Yeah.
So and that's hard. It's a hard place to be. All right, well, let's jump right into Zest's search here. So. And Wyatt did a great job of marking all the distractors that we did not know about at the time.
Yeah,
so
there were a lot of distractors, and they were very challenging distractors.
Yes.
I should say, well, let's just watch him get going here.
Yeah.
I was very impressed that when I let him go, he did not skim the boxes. He put his nose on, checked them.
Yeah.
Yes,
he was very kind of methodical too. I was like, wow, look at you.
And he looks much more comfortable with his footing there.
Yeah. And I guess if you wanted to pause, which we won't, you could like study all the different distractors.
Yeah.
And there's actually more that he's going to show from another angle.
Mm-hmm.
But like Zest
But
is
look
doing
at he's like, this started out really, really well. I
Yeah.
was so pleased
Yeah.
with how he was working it. And then he does his bongo drums. bongo.
Well, you know what? When it's not an ORT box, it's
Yeah,
fine,
yeah,
right? Like,
Yeah.
I think this is a beautiful off-leash search.
Yeah.
Leash search.
but he's got the right pacing to
Yes.
make it feel good.
I mean, if it was on a carpet it might not have gone so well because he likes to run on carpet.
Okay.
But
So yeah, maybe like that flooring forced him to be a little bit more careful.
well, that was part of my decision making too.
Yeah, no, I love it.
So he's doing really well.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting because you ended up taking kind of a similar path to what Kai took, right? Like I think they are sort of finding things in the same order. Oh, I lied. You found them in a different order.
Okay, I think pretty soon it starts to go off the rails. Okay, he finds one.
Yeah, I mean,
So
it's
he's
actually
found
going
three.
really well up
yeah,
until
this
now.
is now okay.
And he's found
So
3.
like this one.
Oh
he's
yeah,
like,
see,
yeah,
this is where all of a
it
sudden he starts kind of giving you the funny business on a bunch of
Yeah.
boxes.
And that one, I don't think had anything in it.
No,
Yeah,
but then he's gonna find.
I think he finds the eggs. No.
Oh, okay, the first no.
Duh. But it's interesting. Even at the time. Let's see. I think this is a yes. Oh, yeah. Here
he's
comes
good,
a
yeah.
yes.
Nice.
Even in the moment, I knew there was something different.
Mm-hmm.
But they changed the distractors. Here's. No.
Oh.
But
So you're on your second no
yeah.
now.
Yeah,
and
it's
that
hard to recover
that is
from.
not a great place to
Yeah.
be, but
Yeah. So.
and this is the moment where I want to be like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
I call that leaving with my dignity.
Yeah,
right?
so this one I really hesitated on. Very soft alert.
Yep.
And then
And then finish.
'Cause
I'm out of here.
if I'm scared
Phew.
to call a container because I don't want to get a third no, maybe I should just leave.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I mean, he had found them all.
Yeah.
But so they changed the distractors a few years ago where they made them much more challenging
Yep.
and, lots more meat and stuff like that. And we haven't done a lot of containers, so I haven't really known what to expect.
Yeah, that's
and
good.
he did fine with the, like the little tiny potato chip in a
Yeah.
container inside a container.
Yeah.
Like,
But
he
the
didn't-
cream cheese or whatever it was.
Yeah, so those days I never had a problem. So I
Yeah.
didn't know really what a distractor would look like. So I knew there was something funny, and when I watched the video, I can see he doesn't, like, usually with a find, he's immediately bongo drums,
Yeah.
with his feet. And it was more like sniffing and then like
A little more investigating.
vetting and even, just like, And it looks similar, but I would not call it a false alert. I would call it Zest trying to open the box and get the food, and me calling
And
the
a
false alert.
miscommunication on that part. Yeah. Did you have a lot of container searches when you ran through Elite with Zest?
Just one.
Just one. Because it's like you get some pretty good distractors in Elite too. Because
Yeah.
I mean, I had one that ended up having like prime rib and mashed potatoes and stuff. And it's like, I didn't know there were any distractors there. So I've always, again, this is where I go like, I have a very solid container dog. And so it was an interesting experience coming into here and just being in that space. So, I mean, and I had several container searches in Elite when that was never a problem. So
Yeah, we had one. I know it had, like, salmon was one, and I think we got a no, but it was not on a. Anyway,
Yep.
I would say last week when we did level 2 containers, and he went like nuts on a container, and that's the one where I said everybody's gonna false on this, and then it's like, what? They didn't fall because he went
funny?
nuts.
Yeah.
So that was my first experience with a false on a distractor. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, should we do Kai? Should we see
All right.
see the wild child in action?
Take a look at Kai's video here. I don't think we mentioned this, but there were actually 5 hides. So Zest found
All of them.
All
He
5.
got all
Yep.
5.
But you had the 2 no's.
Very lucky.
So
right.
he comes out with the
But
equivalent
yeah.
of 4 hides. Yeah.
Yep. All right.
So we're gonna run on leash. Surprise, surprise.
Yep.
He does a pretty good job. So you're going to hear him hit all of the boxes.
That was a good call.
Oh,
Yeah,
I mean, and again, I trust
that was
him. I trust him so much.
Yeah.
So I'm
that was
aware
really-
he's going to miss a box here that Zest didn't. He also is going to miss that odor box. But I marked the one box that he missed there. And then he's going to get this find right away. Which I also mark as being next to the pink shoebox. So I knew that. So things are off to a great start. And
This sounds familiar.
right?
Yes.
Yes. And again, he's doing a really nice job. He's got good footing on the floor. I feel great. So right, I know where he's been. I mean, he's
Which is impressive that you're
Yes.
keeping track. Because,
So that was a weird turn. He hits the wall. And I'm like, that's fine, right? You can work off the wall. Everything looks good. This feels weird. So that look. So I wait, and he hits it again. And so I call it. I get the no, and it's empty.
It's not even a
when he
distractor.
tipped it over, it kind of fell open, and I'm glad I didn't get faulted for it. It you kind of looked at it and it fell, but that was weird to me.
Yeah.
And so he paused this box, and I say no. Like, I'm just like, absolutely not. I'm not going to take that behavior. And I didn't know if it was odor or
Yeah,
not.
that's tricky.
It turned out to be string cheese. So it was the right thing to mark that was inappropriate. But I needed to get us back on track, right? And I'm still getting weird, right? So it's still one of those
Yeah.
A lot
weird
of
looks,
interest,
right?
yeah.
But so here's this
then-
next one, right? And he's like, my precious.
Alert. Okay, good boy.
And so my confidence
Wow.
is just eroded enough.
Yeah.
That literally, I practically said, "Oh, thank God!" Right? Like, "Oh, thank you, Beth, for calling it with a yes."
Alert.
And I'm pausing just a little
Yep,
bit now,
yep.
but again, he's back to what I know, which is again that possession butt swing and kind of that my precious attitude.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I got a good memory,
Yeah.
right? So I know that he's found that one, and
But
Whee!
but you talk about like experienced competitors, experienced dogs, and still like one no,
Yep.
and you just like your confidence
and
just
it's just, you're
goes.
just eroded enough.
Yeah.
So he and it's weird for him to talk about a box. Now I saw that, really wanted him to cover that green box right there, and I felt like I pulled him off of odor, and I knew that I had. So as he works this here, so he's like.
It's great that he came back to it.
Alert. I'm gonna go finish. I don't want to be here anymore.
And that's
That's fair.
called leaving with your dignity.
That's right, yes.
Because in the end, there's no more hides to find.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, and now the chances of me encountering a box that I haven't already searched are so slim.
Yes.
Now I'm in distractor land,
Yes.
and
Yes.
there's distractors because I got
Yes.
the weird paw. I mean, again, my no was on a blank box.
Yeah.
But I call that the miscommunication with me too, because you watch those first two boxes, and I called pretty fast, and I get to that that third call. And I paused. So something in my gut said that wasn't right. But because he went back to it and then tipped it over, I called it. And I mean, I'm glad I did, because I would have felt really bad if it opened and then I was like, nothing in there, let's go. But yeah, I mean,
I just want to make sure. I don't know if everybody would have heard you say, "I don't want to be here anymore.
I don't want to be here
I'm
anymore.
gonna call finish because
Yeah.
I don't want to be here anymore." And when I saw that, I was like, because I was in the exact same spot,
Yes.
and that was exactly what I thought.
Yep. And I think the funniest thing for me was Beth gave me a pronounced in that search, as I said right in front of her, I don't want to be here anymore. So I don't know what she saw, but I'll take it because I needed it.
Yeah.
After being a whiny bee the night before, it was a good way to
Yeah,
end
you
my
got to feel
day.
good about finding
Yeah.
the 5 hides. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's really hard to recover from the no, especially in containers, because, I think our confidence can erode a lot quicker with containers, because sometimes the behavior we see is so similar between distractors or even a blank box.
Right,
You know?
right.
Yeah. So, yeah, good job, both of you, for getting through that.
Well, let's see what Mayroon has to say now.
Okay, fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
At least
I
one of
know.
us was having fun at the start.
Yeah. So as I said, I really tried to I thought, Kathy, you did a good job off leash, helping Zest move through the space in a pattern, but not fully taking over.
Honestly, he was doing that.
Yeah.
He was doing the pattern.
Alert.
Yeah. So I have a lot of trust in Meru. He's a good container dog too, and so I was really quick to trust him there, and he's doing a nice job of moving through the space. So I tried to let him lead, but also kind of recover boxes that were on the perimeter that I knew we might not get back to. So found a second one. So far things are going really well, just like you guys.
Then what happens? No, I'm just kidding. At least he doesn't hit that box. He's three
That's
dogs
true,
after me.
He's doing his spiral. The
Yes.
beginning of the spiral.
Yeah,
And it was funny because a lot of the hides were on the outside and the distractors were on the inside. So if we
Right.
really
She put him in a circle.
Yeah.
She called it the alligator pit, I think.
Yeah.
Christina, the CO.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so he does miss that ORT box, which was missed by I think
yeah,
both of your
yeah,
dogs.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
So we go hit these on the perimeter here, finds a hide here. And I mean, I have all the reason to trust him now. He's found 3 hides, no funny business. And this, now as we start to get into the alligator pit, is when I start to see some funny things.
We have to listen to you, too. I think it's this coming up.
Yeah. So lots of intense interest. I don't really believe that.
I'll come back to that one.
Yeah, but it was there was a lot of interest there, and I'm pretty sure that was a distractor. It had to have been.
Alert.
And I get my first no, and like
That is not it.
that was not it. Nope. But it looked so real, so now my confidence is starting to erode a little bit. I'm not calling things now because I see this intense interest. He's flipping over boxes, and I'm like, oh man, I got to get out of here.
Yep.
I'm not having fun anymore.
So then we get to this ORT box that he missed.
Alert. Alright, I'm gonna go finish.
So the funny thing is we all ended in the same spot, ending on the same hide, and we're all like, we gotta get out of here. And at that point, like, I called finish at 2:40, so it was probably like 2.5 minutes. You guys, I can't remember how long
That
yours
was
were.
2:45.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So that was the one where we all got out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yes.
well ahead, well
Yeah.
ahead.
And I only found 4, but I did know that I left some behind without searching, but I felt that it was too risky to go back into that sea of despair of the distractors and risk getting more no's and eroding more confidence. And I was like, look, I just want to, he did a great job. We're starting to get some funny business. I just need to cut my losses. And I felt that for us as a team, that was the best choice at the time. And we only left 1 behind, so I'm not sad about that. But it was funny that we all kind of ended with the same experience. And I thought 3.5 minutes was probably ample time because, if someone stayed in that long, who knows with all those distractors.
Well, and this search chewed some people up based on scores.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So Kai came in 4th with the 4.5 hides. So there were only 3 other people who came out clean.
Yeah.
So
that was a tough one.
It was a tough.
Yeah, that was a tough one. But how tough too to end the day with 5 hides and containers and the sea of distractors. I mean, what a great challenge.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
it's fun.
really, in retrospect, it's just hilarious to me, especially watching the videos. It's just like, it's just because they all, they're doing so well, and we're so proud.
And then at some point,
the wheels come off the bus and we all kind of reset somewhere.
Yes.
And we all start those pregnant pause
Yes.
alerts. Like, oh God, please be a yes.
All right. Final thoughts about the trial day. We survived another Elite premiere, so
Yeah, I had a good time. I would say minus the fear I saw in the archery search, it was all fun. Mm-hmm. And in retrospect, I enjoyed watching the archery search. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, I really loved the challenges. I thought there was a nice variety of challenges, and at this level, you don't have to be perfect. Again, you want to keep your points, but. Most of these teams are well-oiled machines at this point, and so it's nice to be in a spot where you know what to expect from your dog, and just kind of sit back and watch them work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just so happy to have the opportunities to play with Kai. You know, like again, as he gets older, I recognize that we may never get this title at this level because you gotta have the opportunities, you gotta get in, and then you have to do well enough to keep your points. And it's like, I mean, he's 11 and a half. It's hard to know. You know, every day is a gift at this point, and so it's just fun to have a dog who loves to search as much as he does. Yeah, for sure.
I would say, what a great sport.
Yeah.
I mean, Zest is, I don't know if I said this, but Zest is 10 now.
Yeah.
So he's changed. Hello, sweetie. He's changed his behavior to some extent. But he's still he loves it so much. And I'm so grateful that we found it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because what could be better?
That's right.
That's right.
All right. Well, that wraps up our first episode about our Elite Premier experience in Faribault. So we want to remind you all, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.